Hi and welcome to RedShadow Hacking, and the first walkthrough of many about ethical hacking. In this series, I'm going to introduce the world of CTFs, Capture the Flag challenges, which are aimed at making you and me better ethical hackers. With the knowledge I will share in this series, you will be able to improve not only your Linux skill set, but also your critical thinking as an adversary in terms of exploiting different systems. A great starting point is downloading a hypervisor. I would suggest using either of these: VirtualBox, VMware Workstation, or Microsoft Hyper-V. To make it as easy for you as possible to follow along, download and install either of these Linux distributions as your attacker machine: Kali Linux or Parrot OS Security. Once installing the machine is finished, please make a full update. Since these are Debian-based systems, open a terminal and use this command to update: sudo apt update. Two and signs: sudo apt dist -upgrade -y. Sudo gives you super user permissions. Apt is the repository we are pulling the updates from, and update invokes an update sequence. The double and signs means and in Linux. Dist-upgrade means distribution upgrade, and -y in the end means that Linux will answer yes to any questions that will pop up during the update. Today's victim is Matrix, the first machine from vulnhub. Download the machine we're going to attack on vulnhub.com. Install the machine as a separate virtual instance. Then turn off both machines and set your network settings to NAT. NAT is a protocol that allows the virtual machines to adopt translated addresses in the same network as each other using the DHCP of the native host system. When these settings are applied, start the machines and let's begin. Scanning and enumeration. From now on, everything will be done through your attacking machine, Kali or Parrot, as this challenge is supposed to be a blind challenge. The objective is to find one flag, hence the name Capture the Flag. Different CTFs contains a different number of these flags, but this one requires us to find just one. Flags are usually a text file called flag or a string with the word flag in it. First of all, make sure you know your own IP address by opening a terminal and typing IP /add. Take note on which subnet you are residing. In my case, my IP is 192.168.148.130, which means my subnet is 192.168.148. Before we continue, let's make a directory that will contain our future findings. In Linux, it is as important as in other operating systems to keep organized. Instead of having to move a lot of files later, let's create a directory from which we can work on this challenge and save information if needed. First, make sure you are in your home directory by typing cd /tilde. Then create a folder called vulnhub, and inside that, create a folder called Matrix. Finally, enter the Matrix folder. To check whether there are other endpoints on my local subnet, I can use ARP-scan. This is a tool that broadcasts ARP requests on the local subnet and waits for ARP responses. As ARP stands for Address Resolution Protocol, the responses comes back from online endpoints as IP addresses. This is a good way to see who or what is online on your subnet. However, the machine you are trying to attack may not be the only machine that shows up, as is in my case. This scan will need sudo privileges. -L for local network. Sudo space arp-scan space -L. This is cool and all, but determining what machine we are supposed to attack is very hard, considering there are more machines than 2 showing up on the subnet. To find out what machine is the victim machine, I would instead resort to the program nmap. Nmap is a tool pre-installed with Linux penetration testing distros, and is essentially a port scanner in its basic form. In its more advanced state, Nmap can perform multiple tasks, including finding vulnerabilities. What we want Nmap to do is to show us the machines on our subnet that are up or online, and which ports are open. We can do that with a simple nmap space subnet.0/24 command. Like this. Nmap space 192.168.148, which is my subnet, .0/24. 0/24 scans all possible IP addresses in that octet, 0 through 255. However, this only prompts Nmap to do exactly what we asked of it, show us which machines are up and which ports are open. As a matter of fact, Nmap only scans the most common 1,000 ports out of 65,535 by default. That's 64,500 ports we are missing that might have some interesting services running on them. Let's make a habit instead of scanning for a bit more information than this by using this command. Nmap space -A space -T4 space -P space your IP address, except in the last octet we will put 0/24. The -A stands for aggressive scanning, which will prompt Nmap to include scanning for services running on the ports it finds that are open. It will also do some vulnerability checks. -T4 stands for time allocation 4, and is used in a scale of 1 to 5. If we would set the T value to -T1, it would take a very long time for the scan to finish. However, the scan will be a lot less noisy on the victim's network. Usually when a pen test is performed, we want to be as noisy as possible to see if the implemented security the company has will pick up on our attack. In a CTF like this, we do not need to consider noise either. And that is why -T4 is a happy medium. It is fast, but not too fast to miss something while scanning, which T5 sometimes does. My victim machine seems to be 192.168.148.128. Since I know a lot of ports that are open on this machine are not open on my own. Let's make another scan on the victim's IP address solely, and let's output it to a file in our /matrix directory. Nmap space -A space -T4 space -P 192.168.148.128 in my case. And then I want to output it to a file. So I'll put space -O space scan.txt. The -O means output, and the capital N means normal text file. The scan.txt simply means I'm naming the file scan.txt. When the scan is finished, we will have found a couple of things. We have found that port 22, port 80, and port 31337 are open. But also, Nmap has tried to enumerate what services are running on those ports. It has also detected what encryptions are used for SSH. This is all information that can come in handy to us. We are now stepping into the OSINT phase. open source intelligence. So what can we do now? We might need to find out what we can with the knowledge we have now. Maybe the flag will be on the website. How do we even know there's a website? Well, port 80 and port 31337 are serving HTTP, which, as we know, are web server ports. So why don't we simply open a browser and paste the IP of our victim in the URL field? By default, the browser is trying the default ports for HTTP, which is 80, and HTTPS 443, if we do not specify any ports. Just pasting the IP gives us a web page served on port 80, since HTTPS is not configured. The web page does not bring a lot to the table. There are no links to click on and no flags visible by the naked eye. The whole website seems to be just this one page. But let's poke a bit deeper. Right-click and choose View Page Source. If you are not familiar with HTML, CSS, or JavaScript, which are typical building blocks of a web page, don't worry. We are simply looking for things that can move us along and seems out of the ordinary. This is where a keen eye for peculiarities comes into play. How about this line? There's an image file linked in the page source, and if we click on it, we can see a cute rabbit. Maybe not very helpful, but what might be is in the name of the file itself. It hints us to port 31337, and this port we have seen before. It showed up in our Nmap scan, and the service running on that port was also HTTP. To me, it urges me to check out that web page through that port as well. So let's add the port to the URL. Now the web page suddenly looks like this. Not very helpful either, it seems. There are, yet again, no links or flags. No useful text except maybe the word cipher. Are we looking for a cipher, perhaps? Let's view the page source for this website and see what we can find. Now, hang on. With the word cipher ringing in the back of my head, this immediately catches my attention. A cipher to me is a string of unintelligible symbols that doesn't make sense. This might be a finding, so I would want to save this to our folder. Copy the string from Z to the equal sign. Let's then enter our terminal again and do this. Echo space double quotes and paste your string here. Double quotes, space, hyphen left, space, cipher.txt. The echo command simply outputs a standard output from what we are directing it to. Here we are choosing to paste the string that we found on the website. After that, we use the hyphen to send this string into a file called cipher.txt, which will be placed in the folder we are presently in. Now that we have the string saved, let's find out what this is by searching online. I will search for cipher decoder, and the first page I find is www.decode.fr. Open the page and paste the cipher into the field and click on Analyze. On the left-hand side of the web page, you will get the analysis results, concluding that this cipher is a base 64 cipher. This website can also decode certain ciphers. Click on the base 64 link and try decoding the cipher. Now again on the left-hand side, you will see the result. So what does this mean to us? The spoon mumbo-jumbo is not really info that we can move forward with. However, let's think about where we found this and what it really is. We found this as a cipher on a website, meaning every time this web page loads, so does this cipher. And after decoding the cipher, we can see that the string in fact is a command doing something. So what is it doing? Well, it is echoing. Then you'll see that it is not the spoon that bends, it is only yourself, into a file called cipher.matrix. This is exactly the way we echoed the cipher into our cipher.txt file. So we can conclude that this file is generated on the web page. Now let's have a look at the web page and the file created by adding cipher.matrix to the URL. We are prompted to save the file. Let's save the file in the matrix directory. How about we take a look at the file? Cat space cipher.matrix. Well, that's a new kind of hell we haven't seen before. Let's determine what this abomination truly is, shall we? Let's head over to decode.fr once again and paste the string. This cipher is called brain. Now that's new. Let's decode the cipher by clicking on the brain link. This is the decoded message. You can enter into matrix as guest with password K1LL0RXX. Note, actually I forgot last two letters, so I have replaced with XX. Try your luck and find correct string of password. Hey, that's some really good information. We got three very important things out of this cipher. There is a place we can log in. There is a user named guest. And the user has a password that is K1LL0R and two unknown characters in the end. We know that there is no place to log in on the web pages, but we also know that there is an SSH service open on port 22. So we can be pretty sure that SSH is what we need to go after with the partial credentials that we found. SSH brute forcing and wordless creation. We are now ready to make a move on the SSH service, but there's a big problem. We have a username which is guest, but the password is only partially known to us. If we would have to try all possible combinations for the last two symbols manually and try to log in with each of those on SSH, it will take us a hell of a long time. Not to mention remembering which combinations we've already tried. Lucky for us, there is a way we can simplify this process considerably. Let's use a script called MP64. MP64, together with a program called Crunch, which I will go over in a different challenge, has a great way of making word lists for us. A word list can then be used as a dictionary for brute forcing programs to use while trying to log into a server. Let's have MP64 create such a word list for us. We know the first 5 symbols in the password, but not the last 2. MP64 space K1LL0R question mark A space hyphen left space word list. This simple command does everything we need. MP64 invokes the program. We will then enter a part of the password that we know, followed by the globbing for 2 extra symbols. Question marks means we don't know what's supposed to be here, and the A means any character between 0 and 9 and A to Z, both capital and small letters. Then we are prompting MP64 to write the result to a file called wordlist. MP64 will do this in no time, and we can then count the number of lines to see how many combinations it's generated. WC space -L space wordlist. This invokes the program word count. The -L means line, which means word count will count the lines in the document. Finally, wordlist. We can also take a look at the file contents. Cat space word list. Great, now what? Well, we know we have a list that keeps track on all the possible passwords that might be valid for logging in on SSH with the guest user. But trying all these manually, as we concurred earlier, is a monstrous task. There's another program that can test all these possible solutions for us, though. Hydra is the perfect program for what we need. It specializes in trying login user and password pairs for us, and all we have to do is point Hydra in the right direction. Hydra space -L space guest space -P space word list space SSH : / and the victim's IP number space -V. Hydra invokes the program. -L guest tells the program what login username it should try with. -P word list tells Hydra to use the file word list as a dictionary with possible passwords. In the end of the command, we specify the protocol we want to attack, which is SSH, and at what IP the SSH service is located. -V is to tell the program to show us verbose output, which allows us to see what is happening. After a few minutes, Hydra will have tried every possible combination until it found the right one. And we find the password. What a success! Let's log in via SSH. SSH space guest at the victim's IP address. And hello guest, welcome to Porteous. Shell escapes. We are now logged in. By trying to poke around, we will see that we cannot really do anything. How are we then supposed to find flag? We have a shell called rbash, which stands for restricted bash, which is not ideal. We are locked in a chroot jail and are not allowed to cd around or use any commands as it seems. This is a big problem, of course. Let's see if we can find some more information about our environment. We will use the export command, which will show us the user guests, configurations, and restrictions. Note that the export command will work disregarding restrictions. There are a few parameters that are important to look at in the output that we're given. First of all, we can see what shell we are using, but we already know this. rbash. More importantly, we can see which path is set to this user. This means that this user has certain rights within this path, but we already know we cannot change directory or cd to that path. However, there is another way we can peek inside of that path. We can do it passively, without the system restrictions finding out about it. We can use echo to standard output into the terminal what is inside of the directory. Since echo is not using any program to output into the terminal, the system will never know about it. Hence, it will not stop us. Echo space /home /guest /prog /**. So you can see I added an asterisk at the end, which is a globbing symbol that tells the system to show us anything in the prog directory. And what we find is this. We can see that we can use the program V as this user, since it is located in our permitted path folder. This is great because V is a text editor vulnerable to shell escapes. Since we are locked in a restricted bash shell, that is exactly what we want to do. Escape it. Let's try opening V. Okay, it worked. This text editor, like many others, are working as a shell of its own. To exit V, we would hit escape and write :Q to quit, or :WQ to write and quit. When we quit this program, we escape from the V shell to the designated R bash shell. But what if we wanted to escape to a non-restricted bash shell? Well, all programs are located in the /bin folder on Linux systems. This is the folder that contains binaries. So in there somewhere lies the program bash. What if we tell the V shell that we want to escape to another shell than rbash? We can actually do that by pressing escape once inside the V editor, then pressing :. The editor is now waiting for us to make a choice. It's probably expecting us to quit or write and quit, but let's simply type !bin/bash. Then press enter. Okay, now we just got thrown out of V. So what happened? Well, try the simple ls command to see what's inside your directory. Now this didn't work before, but you will find that we can use the command just fine now. We have made a shell escape from restricted bash to normal bash. We are now able to poke around in these directories and see if we finally can find our flag. But to no avail, the flag is nowhere to be found. Let's look in the root user to see if it's there. Sudo --su. Sudo means super user do, and su means switch user. Problem is, we still don't have permissions to use anything in the bin directory. And remember, since everything is a program in Linux, even commands like sudo resides within the bin folder. Privilege escalation through path exports. Our path of permissions, so to speak, is still set to home/guest/prog. But how about we change that? The path is simply changed with the export command, and we of course want to have access to the sudo command, which is inside the bin directory. Export space path in capital letters =/usr/bin : /bin/. Now if we run the export command, we can see that our path has changed. We now have permissions for both the user bin folder and the bin folder. Let's use the command sudo-l to see what permissions the user has now. We can see that the user guest can do whatever he wants. All. How about switching to the root user? Would you look at that? We are now root. Let's ls to see what is in the root folder. And lo and behold, we have finally found our flag. Well done. I truly hope you enjoyed this walkthrough and learned a few things along the way. Remember that nobody will ever be a fully trained penetration tester, and that it is up to you to seek knowledge and practice your skills at the best of your ability. And always make sure you're using these techniques only on systems and networks you have permission to do so on. See you in the next challenge.